to Elixir Food, a YouTube channel that is dedicated for your Elixir growth and your programming language growth in general. So today we are going to be talking about naming convention. Every single programming language has a syntax, a naming convention they follow. For example, now the naming convention you can follow in JavaScript is either you use the snake case or the camel case. But now when you are doing with React, most time you're going to be working with camel case. Now let's dive down to Elixir. So what is the naming convention? This document is a reference of the naming convention in Elixir from casting to punctuation character. So let me give you a iceberg, just a tip. Elixir does not use semicolon. Once you just do a line break, it's enough for the system to know you are done writing that particular code and function. And once you press enter, it runs immediately, so it does not require a line break. So that's the tip. So we are going to start with casting. Elixir developers must use snake case when defining variable, functions, name, and module attributes. So what do they mean by defining variables, functions, module attributes? So let's spin up one Elixir project, or let me try to do a live book. Yeah, so live book is a way to write Elixir. So in case if you don't want to be running projects, you can always use a live book. So I'm just going to spin up one live book and we're going to work with it. I think I have live book before, because I think I've installed it before, but I'm not sure. Now let's wait for it. The blessing where you do, Joe. So we are waiting for it to install. So while waiting for it, okay, it has come up. So while waiting for it, let's come back here. So they say you must use snake case when defining variables, functions, and module attributes. So we're going to be looking at examples of variables, example of functions, name, and example of module attributes. So what is really module attributes? Module attributes is not like they are helper. They are helper functions or helper variables like at pi. Module attributes mostly start with @ so mostly when you see that art that shows at yahoo.com, you should know is a module attribute. So it helps you do some things automatically without having to define them over and over again. So let's look over here. Yeah, we're learning as we're teaching. That's the goal, to get better every day. So I know I looked at module attributes. Yeah, at module doc is also a module attribute. They can be used as a compile type, and you can register any attribute which can then be queued at a runtime. So this module attributes can be used in the runtime. As I told you, they are like helper to the module. They are constant. You know the way in data where we have this constant that their value does not change. For example, now if you want to do constant in JavaScript, you say const name is equal to ijoma. So wherever you put name, it always knows like it's ijoma you're talking about. That value does not change. So the same way in module, you can do @pi. is equals to, and write the pi value. So whenever you call it, it knows like, oh, okay, this is what you're talking about, and this thing does not change. It's already here. Okay, so let's open this Elixir developers knows aliases. So this is the LiveView Pro now. It has opened. So let's say welcome to LiveView. So we're just going to do a new notebook. So it can always run for us. So we're going to say, now this is what we're talking about. So we're going to say name. So this is a variable. This is a variable name over here. So let's not use name for the variable. In order not to cause confusion, let's use hello as the variable. And I'm going to be using a string. So in Elixir right now, anyway, when I go into more of the basics of Elixir, I'm going to be talking about string, module, functions, immutability, list, map, enum, and all that. So stay tuned. You're going to learn a lot from this channel. But right now, I'm just going to give you a tip that string is not the same way we think about when we talk about other programming language like a text. No, in Elixir, a string can either be a list or a binary. So right now, this format we are using binary. So Ijoma is awesome. Yeah. So when I run it, yeah, evaluate. So when I run it, it's return. Elixir always returns something. So this, what they mean by here is like this is one now. So let me say hello greeting. So this is what we mean by snake. So this is a snake case over here. So hello greeting can be, so let's do a string interpolation where we say so let's run this. So you see, it doesn't give you one to say, it doesn't, if it's JavaScript now, JavaScript will print hello Ijoma is awesome, but this one just print the greeting Ijoma is awesome, you or Ijoma is awesome. Wow. So if I wanted this to print alone, I can do an io.inspect or yeah over here, or I say io.put hello. See, io.put is undefined. Did you mean, okay, sorry, it's an S. So you see, it said Ijoma is awesome because this io.put is a kernel, is inside the kernel module. So kernels are stuff that comes with Elixir. Like you don't have to import it; it comes by default. So if you come over here, you see many functions in this module. Expect an IO device as an argument. An IO must be a PID or an actor representing it. So io.put, every time you concatenate binary or use interpolation, you are making copies of this binary. However, in many cases, you don't need. So this is an awesome thing about the notebook. It gives you explanation of what you are writing. So this is a put value, but because Elixir always return a value, this is what is happening. So we can see over here, that is what it's trying to say when it says so that's what it's trying to say when it say over here that an Elixir must use a snake case when defining a variable, a function name, or a module attribute. So in a module attribute now, let's do a module attribute now. So in a module attribute now, if you do at pi equals to, so in a module attribute must be in a module. So let's do a dev module right now. Let's do a dev module. So the dev module name always starts with a camel case. So we say hello world, do and end. So this is a module attribute. Then we can say at pi value. So this is what they mean by a module attribute must start with a snake case. So this is the meaning, and we can call it 3.6444. So if we evaluate this code right now, invalid usage of module attribute. Module attribute cannot be used inside a pattern matching. Okay, outside. Okay, wait. Module attribute. Sorry, it's supposed to be like this, like this. I'm not supposed to write equals to. Module attribute was set but never used. So we can do io.put So you see, it gives us hello world. This hello world shows us this is a module. So it's returning this is a module. Dot. Okay, but it comes over here to print hello. What is pi? Then let's give it a space. So when we say what is pi, then we got pi as 3 point distance. So that is what we mean by it can be a camel case. So when we are putting this, you notice that this is a camel case, but this is not, sorry, this is a snake case. Please forgive me. This is actually a snake case, but this is a camel case. So module always starts with a camel case and function. So no, let me not dive too much. I think the last one was where we talked about function, and they said the function must use snake case. So what do they mean by function must use snake case? So when we want to start a function, we say def, because we want to do a public function. So we can say hello, and we are not returning anything. We can just say io.put, io.put. Wow, I am a function inside a module. So when we evaluate it, we get the drama is awesome. We have hello, what is pi? Then inside here, we'll call this function. So if we want to call this function now, we can come down here and do so you see the function has been called, and they say, well, I am a function inside the module. So if you notice why we are doing this function, this one does not, so we are going to use this. If we do this like this, let's see what will happen if we don't use snake case. So let's do it like this and see what happens. It's still print out, but it's looking somehow. So it's preferable you use a, so let's use a camel case. This is a camel case. So let's see what happens when we do a camel case like this to print this particular function. So you see function counts should start with lowercase characters. So you see the error we get is that function should start with lowercase character or underscore invalid name. So this shows us that our function cannot have a name like this, but instead we can do it like this. So now everything is okay. So those are naming conventions you should know while writing, so that you don't make this mistake while doing. So we have some examples of what this documentation is saying. When you say Elixir must use snake case when defining variables, modules, and the like. Aliases commonly used as module name are an exception, as they must be capitalized and written in camel case, like option parser for aliases. So what we mean by aliases is that, let me say this is one module right now, right? And I have another module here. I have another module called greetings, called greeting lady. Okay, do and end. And in this my module, I have a function here called ladies hello, do and end. And here I'm just putting an IO put that says ladies room. Now if I want to call this now, this in this hello world now, so I want to call this now, so I do alias so alias I'm going to say greeting I'm just going to call it greeting ladies, right? So over here now, I'm not saying that what's our greeting, so I'll say our greeting is equals to greeting lady dot then over here I just put what our greeting and I run this code. So you see, so we get, so you see that we are getting something. So we get ladies room, which is this particular module. So this is a different module, this is another different module over here. This is one module, this is two modules, and both of them have different functions. So I want to call this function over here in this one. I have to alias that particular module. So I'm trying to reference this module over here. So if I put, when we talk about alias, when we're talking about basic, we're going to explain more. Right now we're just talking about naming convention. So that's what they mean over here when they say atom can be either in snake case or camel case, although the convention is to use the snake case version throughout Elixir when you're using atom. So this is not atom, this is me aliasing another form of atom. But when I want to do something like this, to say value present, so it's better I use, this is what they mean, that I should use snake case. So we're talking about underscore. Elixir relies on underscore in different situations. For example, a content that is not meant to be used must be assigned underscore, or to be variable starting with an underscore. So what they mean is that, let me say, for instance now, I have x and underscore here. So I want to call it a to function right now. So if I want to call it this hello world, I can say x is Jama. Okay, so now let me just put it now. This is x now. So you see here they told me x is unused if the variable is not meant to be used, prefix it with an underscore. So that's what they are talking about. So now as I prefix it with an underscore and I click to evaluate this now, 0 is undefined. So because it has a value, I have to put a value. So it's working now. So the thing is that you have to, like, I'm not using that value over here, this x, but what if I want to read it to say over here, maybe I want to say x plus. So let me just say I'm using the x now and I say x plus, so this, and I say hello over there. So when I evaluate it to be hello plus, okay, bad argument. Oh, Okay, so let me now use this. Let me use this one, concatenation. Segment 2 of binary expected a binary but report okay. No. Bad argument error. Construction of binary field. Segment 2 of type binary expected a binary but okay, so there's a construction issue. Going to look into this later on. I'm going to try to do it like this. So this is how we do it. So this is the interpolation we're supposed to use. So we get okay dot hello. So we get okay dot hello because it's returning an okay. This is this room being called, and when we put here this function, we're getting an okay, and that's why we're having an interpolation. That's why we're having argument error before. So function names. So he said if a variable is not meant to be used, it must be assigned with an underscore. The variable starting with an underscore. Function name will always start with an underscore. Such functions are never imported by default. So any function starting with an underscore, it won't be imported because it's seen it as an undefined function. If you want to do to this property, Elixir relies on functions starting with underscore to attach or combine metadata to modules. So you see, then we have trailing band. So when we use this trailing, it's like maybe a runtime error, or whenever you put it, is saying, oh, this no such file exists. So whenever Elixir says that this bang is mostly seeing it as an error or something is happening. The same way, if you use a question mark, is either you are returning a boolean, which is either true or false. It gives you various scenarios here. This prefix. So if you do something like this, this prefix, they are expecting a boolean. So this is the documentation. I'm going to add it in this video. So this video is just talking about the naming conventions in Elixir. So just the keynotes you are supposed to know. For writing a function or a variable, I'm expected to use a snake case. If I'm writing a module, I'm expected to use an hello world. If I'm doing a attribute, a module attribute, I'm expected to use a PascalCase. If a variable is not going to be used, I'm supposed to put an underscore. So when Elixir says underscore in front of a function, in front of a variable, it check it like it's not being used. So all this is just the naming convention. Don't worry, the more you code in Elixir, the more you know all these naming conventions. They are just there as a guideline. So when you're going through another developer code, you will not be confused about the naming convention. See you in the next video. Bye.